Good evening. I'd like to resume the Finance Committee at 5 o'clock this evening. It is May 26th. Sitting on the committee is Councilor Reynolds. Councilor Cobus will be absent this evening. So standing in will be President Delicio. This evening we have two departments that will be represented, the Police Department and DPW. And so if we could have the police chief join us.
Can you hear me, sir?
Good evening, sir. Good to see you. How are you?
Very well, sir. Thank you for asking.
Happy to hear that. There's a lot of sickness running around. If I could, sir, I'd like to start the conversation tonight with the traffic control unit. Now, my understanding is that we have a sergeant and we have two patrolmen. My understanding is you're currently in the process of seeking two additional recruits to join that unit. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll have that unit fully populated by June 15th once the FTOs get off training. And we have currently 6 in the process now going through their FTO. That's the most recent 6 that have graduated from the police academy. So we'll be able to populate fully that unit and also help out in some of the shifts that are drastically understaffed.
And that unit, that traffic control unit, is going to be using the current supply of patrol cars. Is there any plans to get a couple of vehicles for that traffic control unit exclusive use?
That's going to have to be a conversation between the mayor, you, and that's going to have to outside funding, meaning that it's not within my budget right now to do that. We took existing line cars, which is just simply kicking a can down the road because the mileage we're putting on the other vehicles that we usually try to keep off the road for a minimum of 8 hours a day, so we could stretch the life of a cruiser out to 3-4 years. That cruiser car program is taking these cars off the line to put them to the traffic unit. It's just shifting the problem. So it's a great question, and I'll have to put a funding letter in exclusively to provide that traffic unit with those cruisers, so they're not impacting the line cruisers.
Yes, because our current plan is that we purchase 3 line cruisers a year, and that's a good plan. But to increase the use is a serious condition. Do the traffic control unit need the exact same cruiser as the rest of the force?
No, obviously it's a different function. So they do make arrests on traffic stops and what have you. So it would have to serve the function of transporting prisoners and what have you. However, we could try different makes and models, but it just going outside the parameters of what the mechanic uses to fix the cars, what we have in stock, that also brings different variables in where now he has to get different. Our fleet is identical, so you get into one car, you get into every car. They're all the same, outfitted, and that's for multiple reasons. But also one of them is for the repair and the cost of the stocking of the equipment needed to repair those cruisers. So we could explore that if it's not a negative impact on the budget or cost prohibitive. Certainly, we're always open to new ideas.
So last year you consumed 100% of your budget, pretty much as planned. Mm-hmm. This year, we have it that you're you reduce the prisoner supplies account.
Yes.
You reduce the salary and wages part-time account.
Do you want me to go? Do you want me to go down the line, sir?
Yes, yes, please.
All right, so if I would, I could just start out with just some brief opening remarks. It's been an interesting budget year for us because we still don't really have a baseline of what is going on, and there's some other national issues that have come up that's going to affect this budget year. We're coming sort of out of post-pandemic and the aftermath of it, although we're still having the ripple effect of different variants. The hiring of new police officers has been an absolute abomination. That's due directly to civil service. As you can see from my backup letters I sent down for some transfers, internal transfers within the existing budget, I keep relying on the abomination of the civil service hiring process, and that continues. Inflation has been an issue, and it certainly will be this upcoming budget year. I always try to maintain the budget given to me and not go back and ask for additional funding. However, rising costs is going to be an interesting year. I don't know if due to the inflation costs, if I'm going to have to come back and ask for different money in supplies and services accounts. The full-time salary account, there's a difference there. Council, you and I have had conversations over the years about this and how to reduce overtime. This new generation of police officers, they don't want overtime. Their off time is their off time. They don't want any overtime. And it's getting to the point where we're constantly forcing officers. Did I lose you?
You did.
Oh,
We
we
can
can hear you.
Still hear you.
Can't see you.
I can still hear you.
Can you still see me too?
Can't
No.
see you, but I can hear you.
I don't know what happened. Did I lose you?
No, we can still hear you, Chief, if you want to.
All right, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to my picture. You can still hear me though?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. So, so we took out of the overtime account, you'll see the reduction in the overtime account. The funding to hire 4 additional police officers from the overtime account and shift that up into the full-time salary account. So it's a repurposing of money within the budget already. So we're not asking for funding for additional 4 police officers. My idea is that if we can hire 4 new officers using the overtime money, it will reduce the amount of overtime if we bring 4 new officers on board. And that's what we did there. So that covers their salary and fringe benefits. That's why you'll see the reduction in the overtime account. When I got on, we used to rely on details in overtime. This new generation police officer simply doesn't want them for whatever reason. So it's causing havoc within the ranks of overtime, forced overtime, and it's a problem. So that's an outside the box thinking idea that we've come up with, and the mayor agrees, and I hope the council goes along with that. The salaries part-time account has been reduced. That's a reflection upon the number of arrests, which have significantly dropped since 2019. In 2019, we had 687 arrests. In 2022, we had 159. So I cannot justify keeping that amount that was budgeted in the police budget. So that's why there's a reduction there. And I still don't know what the baseline is going to be. So that could fluctuate. And that has a similar effect upon the prisoner maintenance account, which is down in the supply section. That's a reflection on the reduction of the number of arrests we're experiencing also. So you'll see a reduction in that account. The other accounts, the maintenance of contracts, you'll see an increase there, about $4,200. That is directly to the software and tech support, contractual, and also the council provided funding last year so we could purchase Cellbrite for the detective, computer crimes detective. so we can do investigative software investigation to cell phones and what have you. So there's a software tech support that comes with that. Thankfully, the mayor was gracious to give us an additional $25,000 of police training, which I think in this day and age, the police training is critical. And I thank him for that. So that's a $25,000 increase, which is great. I spoke about the supplies prisoners already. The data processing supplies account went up. That's directly to the cost of ink going up. And you'll see in the vehicles account, it's 2010. That will give us approximately 3 vehicles unless there's additional increase that we don't know about, which I hope does not happen. And we're currently still waiting for 3 vehicles that we bought almost a year ago. And there is still money in that account, but we're waiting for the vehicles to be delivered before we can use the final $21,000 in that account, which was provided last year. So there's a supply chain issue with some of the equipment. So we still haven't had 3 vehicles delivered. And that's about it for this budget. It's not a very sexy budget for the police this year.
Does anyone have any questions for the chief? Councilor Blair, you have the floor.
I got one. I know I'm beating a dead horse, Kyle, but I know in the past year or so, you've had a terrible time recruiting police officers.
Absolutely.
I know it's a tough time to be a police officer. I understand that. I know it's tough recruiting because, is it because we can't compete with other surrounding towns and cities?
Yeah, we are.
Money-wise?
Yeah, right now, it's a very unusual time for policing. And this is nationally, just not our area of Massachusetts, but nationally. The want to be a police officer is just not there. We're not getting the numbers we used to of people who want to be a police officer, who want to join the police service. It's very, very, very extremely low, critically low. It's very difficult to draw people to this profession these days, and that's a shame. On the other side of the coin is we're losing officers to other departments because of the pay, and it's similar to I'll equate or analogize it as the NFL. It's like a free agency. So police officers are leaving to go to other higher paying police departments, and that's problematic. So the obviously the Quinn bill is an issue, and I greatly appreciate this council recognizing that that is an issue. Other departments are paying full Quinn, Attleboro is not, and we're losing officers. That's a big part of it.
It sounds to me like you're losing the cream of the crop, and you have to take somebody down the list that possibly you wouldn't even consider. Money, just because of the money. And you can't blame people today. They got families out there. Inflation is eating them up. It just seems, I've been lobbying for that Quinn bill, Kyle, and hopefully the administration has listened and we can do something after.
We do have a game plan. Oh, can you hear me now?
There you go.
There I am.
So other than the Quinn bill, Kathleen DeSimone and myself, and much of the writing of it, and was definitely Kathleen, not me. But we have a hometown petition in the Senate now, and I don't think our senator has put his heart and soul into this to get it passed. It's not given up civil service. It's given up the hiring practice. Am I correct, Kyle?
Yeah, it's an outside the box thinking, and I just
Yeah.
want to give before I move, I just want to give accolades to Councilor Conti too, because he reached out to me, recognized, and he brought in business saying that the city should have full quint. So I want to say thank you to him before we go off to the civil service special legislation.
Well,
The mayor,
if that
the mayor.
special legislation goes through, will it make the hiring practice?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and absolutely, 100%. Yes, you're correct. It will make it so we could hire similar to a non-civil service police department. The mayor did speak directly to the chair of that committee where that bill is currently dormant. And the chairman did speak to the mayor and say, this is some of the issues that we need to address. Civil service is definitely afraid that they're going out of business. And they've rallied, circled the wagons, and there's like an unofficial moratorium not to remove any other towns and cities in Massachusetts from civil service, which is shameful because civil service is broken. It needs significant fixing, I guess is the lack of a better word I have. Nevertheless, our bill, which you and Councilor DeSimone were fantastic to work with, deals with giving the Attleboro Police Department the ability to hire in a non-civil service manner, send the person to the police academy. By law, he has to be on a 1-year probation status. Then after that 1-year probation status, at that point, he would enter into civil service status under Chapter 31 of the Massachusetts General Law. And then for the rest of his career, he would be under the
Preview.
management control of civil service.
So actually, and I think Kathleen did a great job with this, it doesn't hurt the officers that are there now.
They're not releasing, they're not losing any rights, privileges, benefits. It's the exact same thing as they're experiencing, minus the hiring. And that's the only rub I have on civil service. I don't mind the promotion process. I don't mind the disciplinary appeal process. It removes the politics from policing, which works. It's the hiring. The hiring is abomination. And we're wasting taxpayer dollars left and right because of the linear process in civil service hiring. We just went over $100,000 in hiring this year. That's shameful.
You had hired 5, and then at the last minute, 2 of them bailed.
Oh yeah, the 2 were supposed to start on a Monday. They called on a Friday, and they said we're going to stay in our civil in our citizen jobs. We don't want to become police officers. We're going to stay put. Matter of fact, we had 2 that went to the police academy on day 1. The young man came back and said, "This isn't for me. I don't want to. I'm quitting the police academy. I don't want to do it." And we spent a lot of money putting him into the police academy up to that point. The other gentleman had a physical fitness problem where he couldn't complete the physical fitness aspect of the police academy. He had to quit. He actually got removed by the police academy. And that right there, that's another chunk of a waste of money. Then we put a lot of people through the hiring process, medicals, psychologicals, and they withdraw at a later date down the road. So it's frustrating, and I think you can hear it through my voice, and not just the money that we're through this linear process that we're wasting. The staff productivity is lost. The detectives, the time we put into their salaries and expenses for overtime when they do the backgrounds investigations, we're never recouping that. And then I haven't even included that into the cost of what we're losing. So civil service probably was good at some point in the past, but that time, it's in the rearview mirror. The usefulness of civil service hiring has expired. And that's why we tried to be creative.
Well, thanks for your your perseverance in trying to get people on the force, but we're gonna have to give you an advantage somehow along the line so we can compete with surrounding communities. When somebody can leave here and make 25% more money by moving a few miles up Route 95, I mean, you can't blame them either, Kyle. It's tough out there.
I understand, and I don't have any ill will when they leave to go to a higher paying police department. I
Yeah.
understand it, and that goes for the gentleman, the three officers we lost to the state police. You know, however, I think if we were to provide the Quinn bill, and I think we would retain a lot more officers and also get a better educated police officer on the street. So the mayor does have a plan. I did speak to him, and negotiations are coming up with a police union. So well, our bargaining team has a plan, and we're going to address it. And I think.
Thanks for all your effort, Kyle.
Thank you.
Councilor Delissio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you again for putting together a really tight budget and really the explanation. I know you tell me from time to time that you're like, oh, you get it. You know, I mean, you give me too much credit sometimes. I'm not that clever. However, I do know that you've spent a lot of time with training, and training has been something that it's been important to you well before it was, you know, the topic of the day. Sticking along the lines of Councilor Blair's questions, do you feel that you're in a situation because you focus so much on training and because you get your officers trained, you get your supervisors trained, that it makes them a little more enticing to other departments?
Yeah,
And just
Yes,
let me clarify a little bit further, because what my concern is that we're getting these folks trained and we don't have the incentive on the back end to keep them, and not just in your department, I think in other departments as well.
it's bitter when they leave.
Mhm.
However, we still have an obligation to train and make sure that we have the best qualified police officer to serve our citizens in a lawful manner. We are dealing with some significant issues, you know, police reform, but we deal with liberty rights. No other department in the city deals with the significant issues that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And I know this council would support the statement that we want the best qualified police officer with the highest education that we can provide them, including training, because our citizens not only expect it, they deserve it.
Yeah.
So, but when we lose them, yeah, we do lose that money we put into them, and it's kind of like the Oakland A's. You know, they develop their players in the farm system, they bring them up, and they don't pay them well, and they go to some other team. You know, so we're trying to do a little money ball here.
I was going to say good Moneyball reference, and you know, just part of the question, and we talked about this last night, but I just want people to understand how important training has been to you and the benefits that we've seen. You know, I know de-escalation training is a big thing amongst others. The last question, Councilor Conti, if I may. When we're talking about, first of all, I love the idea of taking money from the overtime, reallocating that. I mean, that's just really creative, outside the box thinking. But of course, we deal with unexpected retirements quite a lot. And, you know, if you could answer this question, I'd ask you to play the lottery and give me some of the winnings. But, you know, what does your crystal ball tell you you're going to look at for retirements this year?
The faucet is starting to turn off. So
Good.
after Proposition 2.5 in the early 80s, we had a lot of hiring, and 30 years later, those officers were eligible for retirement. So the last 5-6 years have seen a significant turnover in this department. We have a captain that's retiring in the fall and a sergeant. We just had a sergeant retire this past end of May, May 17th, I believe. So then The following year, we have an additional sergeant who was eligible for retirement. And after that, it slows down significant. After the captain retires, then I actually become the senior officer in the PD, along with Sergeant Bodette and Sergeant Blackwell. We all went to the academy together, which is sad for me. That means I really got old. So that means I'm the old guy now.
You wear it well, bro.
Thanks. So after next year, fiscal F24, FY24, it's just me and another person that are eligible for retirement. That would be next. I shouldn't say eligible. So the faucet's turning off. But what my worry is, what you and Councilor Blair were talking about is losing officers to other departments and constantly having to replace those officers and constantly coming back to the council asking for more money to replace those officers. So.
Thank you.
Councilor DeSimone, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Conti. Good evening, Chief. Thanks for coming, and thank you for your persistence in the civil service matter. I'm optimistic a little bit that it'll pass. Anyway, I'm interested in very supportive of your idea in 2023 to explore the nonviolent response team. And I know it's early days, but I'm inclined to think there might be grant funding available for that or some kind of support available through the feds. And I'm wondering if you have or should consider reaching out to the congressman, because I think it's a great idea. It's exactly where we need to be. And I guess I'm wondering what your timetable is with that.
It's definitely something we're serious about. Obviously funding driven, either budget wise or grants. Grants are great. However, the maintenance of the grants, you need staff to do that. And currently I really do not have the support staff for adding additional grants on. I would appreciate if the city could bring on a grant person, a grant moderator, grant administrator, and strictly be funded by the number of grants that person would solicit and secure. So that's almost like a sales-based approach. And they could handle all the quarterlies that need to be done, the paperwork, any other associated requirements. We do currently have a lot of grants, as this council knows, because you always vote on the expenditures of those grants, authorization of them. And but there's a lot of backup that comes with it, and that's the downfall of grants. I love getting the money. The administrative support of those grants is troubling. So I do like and support what you're saying. However, it's hard trying to bring on an additional unit based upon grant money, because then if the grant expires, and what do you do? Is the city going to pick up the load thereafter and the salaries that come with it? And and I think Councilor Conti's always said that grants are fine until they run out.
True. Thanks, Chief.
Councilor Dolan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Has the city of Attleboro ever funded the Quinn?
Yes,
Yeah.
matter of fact, we still have 12 officers that receive the Quinn bill. So what happened was back in 2012 or 2011, I believe the state, in their infinite wisdom, decided not to fund 50% of the Quinn bill. So prior to 2011, the state funded 50% and the city would fund 50%. So Governor Deval Patrick back then decided not to fund the Quinn bill and just cut the state's half off, which I think is a major mistake, because in 1971 the Quinn bill came in to address issues in law enforcement that we're kind of experiencing today, and that's why it came in to draw a better educated police officer, attractive salaries, and hire more qualified people for the profession. In 2011, that was, for whatever reason, it was cut. The city elected to grandfather all the police officers who were receiving the Quinn bill. Anybody hired after 2012 would get the equivalent of what the firefighter educational stipend is. So the firefighter educational stipend and the police officer educational stipend are the exact same thing. The problem is I don't see the firefighters dealing with a lot of liberty issues and use of force issues, and they're not being scrutinized and sued as much as police officers. And I was a firefighter, so I served in that capacity. So I think I can speak to that side of the fence also. Policing's vastly different. The training's different, but you need to attract the right people for this profession.
So is the state no longer funding at 50%? They're funding nothing?
Nope.
Okay.
So you
sorry.
have other cities and towns that continue to fund it 100% and never dropped it. And those are the attractive places now that the officers are applying to.
Is the mayor looking to do that for us to fund it?
Yes,
Well, I'm sure Jeremy wants to answer that.
Yeah, well, we have a plan, and it's going to have to be carried out through police bargaining.
Right.
Okay.
Negotiations.
And then just one last one, if I can, Miss Rick. As far as the number, I wonder, I don't know if it would be you, Chief, or Jeremy, to get any type of, do we have any numbers of our turnover? So hypothetically, over the past 5 years, 18 people have left that we put through the academy, stayed. They were an Attleboro police officer for 6 months and they left for a better paying job. Like, do we have any tracking figures or anything just to see if this is truly an issue and what the issue is?
Truly an issue.
Well,
That's That's great.
I meant
I'm living it.
To pinpoint it. That's what I meant. To pinpoint, is it money? Is it we're too busy here and a different community is less busy and they make the same amount of money? I'm just saying to pinpoint.
I'll tell you what, Council. How about I do this? The next union meeting, I'm going to ask the union president if he could bring you in, and you can hear it from them directly. How's that?
I'm not suggesting that this isn't truthful. I'm wondering, so we can fix whatever the reason is that we're losing them.
I'd rather you can hear it from them, because they'll tell you right up front on what is the exact issue as what's going on. And like I said, it's free agency out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Budget Director, did you wish to have the floor?
I just wanted to thank you, Councilor. On the Quinn bill piece, it's a part of collective bargaining. As the chief said, we have an approach. We've had multiple discussions on this. I don't want to go too far into it. It's an item subject to collective bargaining, so I don't want to either actually or have the appearance of trying to negotiate in public or any sort of negotiation piece that we have. So everything that has been said tonight has been stuff that's already in the collective bargaining agreement and we've been talking about, but in terms of prospective and changes to the bargaining agreement, I want to be careful that we don't cross that line. The folks who were hired after that grandfathered in date, as the chief said, have a flat stipend. So that's roughly equivalent to half the Quinn bill for an entry-level officer. I have some other stuff I wanted to say, but I know a few other councilors had some questions, so I'll yield back. I just wanted to make that point on the collective bargaining piece. So thank you.
Councilor Waterman, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, sir.
We've talked a couple of times about your hopes for social workers or mental health workers. I believe you had a part-time mental health worker this year. First, how is that working out? And what are your thoughts about a full-time social worker down the road, if not sooner?
We have a partnership with Bristol, BCCB, I forget the exact name, where we have a mental health counselor specialist that is embedded with the problem-oriented policing unit, and they go out and do direct visits. And I think it's 3 days a week now that she comes in. We also have drug abuse counselors, more or less like coaches, former addicts that have come back and certified on how to help opiate addiction and address people who have a abuse addiction problem with heroin and what have you. So we have that. However, in the future, I would like to hire social workers as another layer that they could respond to certain calls for service that don't require a police officer. And more importantly, follow up. Is a lot of what we do as police officers. We respond to the incident and we have to more or less solve the problem in 15, 20 minutes to get back in service for another call.
Yeah.
So we're either going to arrest, write a report, restore the peace, and then leave. That's what it comes down to. So we need that element of more or less what the POP team has been doing, which is to follow up and getting to the root cause of the problem. It would be nice to bring on to the POP team a full-time social workers, hopefully grow it, and they could be part of the POP team response plan.
Right.
So, but it's funding. It's what it comes down to, is funding. This, the budget's a pie. The police department has a certain amount of the pie. So if we can find funding or allocate funding, maybe use the marijuana money, or I don't want to speak for the mayor, but it all comes down to funding. We have plenty of wants. How do we fund it? I don't know. It's collectively we have to figure it out.
Well, I'm supportive of that. Do we know if other departments in this area have social workers?
That I don't know. In an immediate area, I do not know. I know the larger agencies that, the Bostons, the Springfields, the Worcesters, those agencies certainly have them.
Right.
I think it's a good need. I wouldn't say we've always had social workers. Not always. The POP team has been serving in that capacity, but they're not certified specialists. You know what I mean? And they've been serving in that role. But I agree with you. I think we do need to elevate the POP unit to bring on social workers.
Okay. Thank you.
Very well. Well, thank you, Chief, for coming out tonight. We're in a little bit of overtime. Deb, did you have a question that you want to bring up?
So most of you covered most of the questions that I had. Chief, the 4 positions for patrolmen, it looks like it's a July 1st hiring. Are we in a decent current position with civil service? Like, is it in the pipeline, or is it something that our goal is July 1st, but it's really going to be December because of the hiring process?
I've geared up to it. So if this honorable body agrees to execute that plan, I have purposely stacked the hiring process to bring those people on. And
So we think we'll have them.
Yeah, the answer is yes. This has been my plan the whole time. So I've been going through the hiring on the current vacant positions with the additional thought process of those 4. If the council says yes.
I just know how difficult it is for you to hire folks, and you've expressed that today. So I didn't know how likely that was. So it sounds like we're hopeful that it could happen. The $25,000 that you have for earned time, that's sort of just a spacer. Do you feel as though that's ballpark enough money, or no, if you have 2 retirements in the fall?
It all depends. I'm probably going to have to come back and ask for the council, but if these people expend their leave, sick time, vacation, then it becomes kind of a moot point.
Right.
If they don't, then I'm going to have to come back to the council and ask for funding for that contractual issue.
Okay. And then there's 3, just so everybody remembers, there's 3 revolving funds within the police department. There's the police replacement vehicle, which really isn't a replacement vehicle account anymore with the amount of money that we get through there, but the chief does use that account to help support the maintenance of the fleet. The income coming in for that is, modest at best compared to many years ago, but it is still there, and it is something set for renewal. And then the 2 other revolving funds are the police false alarm, which is in pretty decent shape, chief. And then the final one is the fingerprinting fund, but I believe all of those are slated to be renewed this year, and I don't have any reason to suggest that they shouldn't be. So
the cruiser fund is more or less like a maintenance fund now.
Yeah.
we just don't generate enough money to purchase cruisers out of there. So it's to keep the fleet alive and maintained.
Yeah, and the other thing that the chief uses that fund for, folks, is if there is it helps to offset any repairs due to car accidents. Like if there's a deductible and stuff like that, the chief actually has a place to go to. So those were my only comments on the budget.
So, Deb, we voted the revolving accounts out of the committee last Tuesday night, and we'll be voting them out of council tonight. So the revolving accounts will be done by Monday after the mayor signs a certificate of vote.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I just want to add that Auditor Gould, it sure is good to see you on video. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you. I apologize for not being able to make last night's meeting. It just was not possible.
We missed you. So thank you, Chief.
Thank
I'll
you,
be on
sir.
the phone with you again shortly. We have a few things to talk about. And
Sure.
I've never been shy in giving you a call.
Sure. All right, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks,
You
Chief.
too. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
And now we're ready for Mike Tyler from the DPW, and the DPW is in your budget books on page
76.
26,
Starts on 76, yeah.
76. Thank you. Mr. Tyler, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Chairman Conti.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here tonight. There's before we get into the nitty gritty of the budget, there's one thing that I want to discuss with you. That last night we were talking about the snow deficit reimbursement, and after more consideration, I'm considering suggesting to the budget, to the finance committee, that maybe that baseline for that snow account should be increased a little bit, because I don't believe that we can go through 1 year and burn up only $97,000 for snow removal. Has there been anything that's happened in the recent year that is, other than the increase in gas prices, that is affecting your snow removal budget?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've had to increase the price for contractors because of the shortage of supply on them. Of course, all the material costs are going up. We put a big emphasis on the sidewalk cleaning program. From past years, we try to get more done. But the majority of it is all cost and labor. I'd say the highest cost that we have when it comes to snow removal is the cost of the snow removal contractor services in the materials itself. But again, if there's less city employees doing the work, we need those contractors to do more of the work, and that's never a winning formula for any municipality.
So I see in the budget that you're adding $10,000 for line striping. Is that something that's not covered by the Chapter 70 dollars?
So no, it has not. When the accounts have called for it, I believe it was the first year I was here, and I think when Lance was here, there was actually extra money left over in the gas and diesel accounts. So we had asked for that money to be transferred into supplies, which we then purchased the paint, and we're actually painting the lines in-house instead of going with a contractor out to do those, because it's not a Chapter 90 eligible cost, if you will. But after reviewing that for a couple of years and seeing the quality that we're getting by doing it in-house, and actually the amount it actually costs between having 3 or 4 department employees and a police detail with them to do those lines during the course of the day, I think it's much more effective to have this done out of house. The cost is a little bit lower, believe it or not. It can be done at night. It doesn't require traffic details. And we get much more professional appearance out of that. So we did start doing that last year, and we utilized at that time Columbia Gas accounts out of account 2070. So I have asked the mayor. I believe it's a big safety issue. We hear about this concern from a lot of residents going through the city, especially during the winter months or at night. And especially if you go into a surrounding community that actually has painted their double yellow lines and fog lines. So I've asked the mayor to actually give us enough money where we can alternate years. So that additional $10,000 would be doing double yellow lines on our main and secondary roads this year. And if we continue the program next year, the other 10,000 will be to do the fog lines on those roads. So I'd like to alternate it moving forward. Again, I just think it's a big, big safety issue, and anybody who drives at night is getting older like me, sitting there wearing glasses. It really is a safety issue.
Got it. Thank you. I see also that you're trying to expand your GIS involvement, and I wanted to ask you: is the skill level of the operator of the GIS input is that a highly skilled position?
It used to be, but it's gotten a lot easier. This software actually came with a package that we had when we started putting up the solar speed radar. So with that program actually came a GPS program that can actually mark signs, catch basin locations and all that. So it's actually, since we have that software, it's actually been used very user-friendly, if you will, to actually just pull up to the spot. The GPS location comes automatically up on the screen, and then you'd actually basically pushing the button, just telling what you are trying to mark, whether or not it's a catch basin, a sign, what type of sign you can type in. So it's very user-friendly. It's something that I'm kind of hoping that because of the age requirements, it's something I kind of forgot that Owen reminded me of. Anybody driving a city vehicle, which would be in this case, does have to be 18 or older. So it was my hope to actually get either a high school summer student looking to do this work in July and August, or the leases maybe getting some college level student to do it. But it's very user friendly and easy to do.
The Wheaton College used to have a mandatory intern program. I don't know if that COVID has been wiped out by COVID or not, but I was thinking the exact same thing, that this might be appropriate for an intern.
Yeah.
Finally, the last item that you have down here is on working with the fire department personnel to resolve some mechanic issues. You want to elaborate on that just a little bit?
So, yeah, I'll give you a general statement from myself, and then I'm going to actually let Jeremy take over to talk about the financial implications. The chief had approached me probably about a year ago and asked about whether or not I would be receptive to the fact of having another mechanic added here strictly to work on the fire department equipment. And I know at one point when this building was being built, that actually they were thinking about making it a citywide garage. Unfortunately, the size of the building was downgraded a lot from those original plans, and that never became a reality. But after thinking about it, I think we do have this space here for one of our stalls to be utilized by the fire department. Our lift can actually lift the fire truck, which is another very important aspect of it. And I think the most important aspect to me is the chief is on board. We're actually told him that, that person actually has to report to me. I can't have somebody working in my garage that doesn't report to me and is basically going to be a lone wolf out there. And I also expressed to the chief about the ability of basically just him letting me know what that mechanic is going to be asked to do. We couldn't have just any firefighter or anybody else just walking in here and telling us what has to be done on that vehicle at a certain time. It has to be done very scheduling wise. And the chief agreed to both of those stipulations. So I think at this point, since we do have the room, we do have the lift capabilities. That is something we could look into, because it seems like there's a significant cost savings to the city at some point. And I think more important, it's very important to have a proper maintenance program for the vehicles. Somebody, you're talking a fire truck, a minimum is like $1 million right now. So making sure that you're performing proper maintenance can save you a lot of headaches down the road. So with that, I'd kind of like to turn it over to Jeremy to talk about the logistics of it.
Sure,
Very
if I
well.
may. Thank you, Mike. I think you captured that pretty well. We had a series of meetings that culminated in a meeting recently between Mike Tyler, myself, Personnel Director Owen Bibu, and the Mayor and Chief LaChance, and Bobby Arujo, I believe, was there too. And I think it was a really good example of us all pulling on the same oar, so to speak. The teamwork to get to a goal that kind of helps everybody out. So we can talk a little bit more about the genesis of this and why the chief needed it when we speak with him next week. But he had requested to double his vehicle maintenance budget. He's sending vehicles out for stuff left and right. He has major vehicle repair, which is still going to be in his budget, but more routine things that if we could do the preventative small things, changing, filters and doing preventative and inspections and things like that, that are more easily housed within a DPW garage, then that would save him on his maintenance of vehicles. So he had asked for the doubling of his budget because he transfers in and we were ready to fund it. And then we had these discussions. So we cut that additional money, put it into reserve for transfer in the citywide on top of the normal 400,000 to add this mid-year. So like Mike had said, we're working on the process. So it's only going to be the chief who sends something down. What kind of slips and tracking and what, when this person doesn't have fire department stuff, what else are their responsibilities? So personnel is putting together the job description on things like that. Where do we grade it in the laborer's contract, in the DPW contract? So those sorts of things we didn't have done in time for the budget and won't have done in time for July 1. But we're working on it as an administration. So we carried that reserve in anticipation of requesting a transfer into DPW salary lines mid-year. So the hope is save money on the small stuff. We're still going to send out the big stuff. So very fire specific stuff that a more generalist wouldn't know or doesn't have every certification. We're still going to be sending that out. So I don't want you to think we're doing everything in-house, but we're going to be doing a great deal more once we get this up and running.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Conti. Hey, Mike. Mike, two quick things. I appreciate the increase in the line striping budget. I agree. I think the lines are quite important. So I'm glad to see that you're adding money there. But you and I have talked before about your sign budget, and I know things get tight. Is this the line, Mike, where it's only 8,500? Am I looking at the right line for safety signs? I guess what I'm wondering, do you have enough for the signs? Because I know you make them in-house. I just want to make sure you have enough funds to do all the signs you got to do.
So that's a great question. And thank you, Councilor DeSimone. Since we're able to produce our signs in-house and manufacture, I think that's a comfortable number when we're just having minimum requests on overlaying what we normally do for maintenance issues. I think it's probably, can't see that it'd be prudent to put more money in there. I just think that it'd be important when the city council makes decisions about putting up possibly no parking zones or something like that, something like Stobbs Drive that was done that required over a dozen signs to be put on. I think at that time, I just wish they'd outreach to me so I could actually give you a price to include when you're making that ordinance change to seek funding for individual projects. But I really couldn't tell you how much I could anticipate an increase over 8,500 without knowing firsthand, how many of those requests are going to come forward. So I think it would be tying up good money just for now. I'd rather do it on an individual basis.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have questions for Mike? Councilor Deb Gould, you have the floor.
Mike, I just wanted you to touch on the gasoline and diesel. Your budget request was 160 and 105. The recommendation from the administration is 175 and 120. And your current year for gasoline, you're at 185. So, I mean, I just think and gasoline is 185 budgeted for fiscal 22, and diesel is budgeted right now at 160. So diesel, the recommended budget, Jeremy, I don't know if you want to take it or Mike, but it's $40,000 less. I mean, unless you really think diesel fuel is going to drop, I just think it needs to be out there that Mike is very likely to need more money for fuel. And the other thing is, this is a central budget for Mike, but other departments use it, right? If you have a really bad snow year and our vehicles are out, your consumption is going to be greater. It is a number that fluctuates, but everybody knows what fuel is going for right now. And unless it drops considerably in the fiscal 23 cycle, you're probably going to need more money there. I think that's fair to say.
So, yes, Jeb, I would absolutely agree. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but I mean, I don't see how it can go much higher. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. On normal fuel increases for the last 4 years over a monthly period are usually, 8 cents for gasoline and maybe 10 or 12 cents for diesel. The last month that we ordered diesel fuel, it actually went up $1.54 a gallon over a month. So again, I think it's one of those things that I'm glad you brought light to it. But I wouldn't even know what kind of number to put in there to justify asking for more.
Yeah, I don't think that you need to, Mike. My point is that I just want to make sure everybody understands, it's our best guess, right? I mean,
Sure.
Who knew 2 years ago that we'd be paying so little for gasoline at the beginning of the pandemic and so much today?
Sure.
I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that, it's not, they didn't cut it. The budget hasn't been cut in that respect. It's just, if fuel costs keep at the current pace, we will potentially need to come back for more money there. I think that's going to be like the general consensus to everybody. Some of the annual contracts, we don't have numbers yet. Some of Mike's annual bids are coming in, and I want to say, like, we were pretty lucky on some of our renewals that will impact other things, but many of our contracts also have escalation clauses in them, and we might see increases over the fiscal year that folks have to come back. So.
Well, we have received a lot of requests in the council in the past few weeks for people looking to tuck in, $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 into their accounts to get through to the end of the year. So that's just a sign of the times.
Right.
And sad, but anyone else have a question for Mr. Tyler? Mike, thank you very much for being here tonight. Appreciate you coming in and answering our questions, and I'll be on the phone with you shortly to deal with a couple of issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman Conti, and members of the council. Have a great evening.
Hey, Mike.
President Delicio, we have a council meeting opening up at 7 o'clock, correct?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, which is in 2 minutes.
Correct.
So I'd like to call for the Finance Committee to recess at 5:58. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Reynolds. The motion to recess is in order. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I declare the Finance Committee recessed at 5:58. 2 minutes to spare.
Well done, Richard.
So, Councilor Conti, we redo budgets. The next one is June 1st, correct?
Next one is June 1st, and on June 1st, we're going to be doing water,
Okay.
followed by wastewater, education, planning, elections, and council on aging.
Water,
That's probably going to
wastewater.
go beyond 7:30. That's going to be a late night.
Yep. Water, wastewater, education.
Planning, elections, and council on aging. And Virginia Stewart is going to try to find a spot to fit in the building inspector on Thursday, June 2nd. So we'll try to tuck him in maybe around forestry collector, assessor, right around that area, or we'll have to put him in at the end.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
D'Angelo. Mr. President,
Hi, Madam Clerk. How are you?
good. How are you today?
Fantastic.
Great.
What do they say? Living the dream or a sitcom? All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 6 o'clock. Madam Clerk, we will now do a roll call attendance to record those councils present, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Present.
Ms. Dolan,
Here,
Mr. Conti,
Present.
Ms. Bennett,
Present.
Vice President Cobus, Ms. Reynolds,
Here.
Mr. Angelo,
Present.
Ms. DeSimone,
Here.
Mr. Blair,
Yes,
President Delicio.
Present.
Great. 9 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. There are no public hearings tonight. There are no communications. There are no old business, no new business. I would like to entertain a motion to go into committee of the whole, please.
Second.
All those, we'll actually have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Excuse me, Mr. President, should I read the special notice for the special meeting?
Yes, you should. Sorry, I overlooked that. Thank you.
That's quite all right. You're welcome. Date, May 19th, to the members of the Municipal Council from James Delicio, Council President. Councilors, by authority of Article 2, Section 2-7C of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter, I hereby call a special meeting of the Municipal Council as follows. Date, Thursday, May 26, 2022. Time, 6 p.m. Place, City Council Chambers. That was amended May 20th, 22 to Zoom only. Purpose to discuss any legal matters before the council. Sincerely, James Delicio, President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I just want to thank everyone for the flexibility before we head into committee of the whole. I'd like to thank everyone for their flexibility over the last 2 weeks. This has certainly been a little bit of a fire drill with some COVID increases in City Hall, especially. We wanted to err on the side of caution, especially last week with the public hearings. So I do appreciate everything that you've done and your flexibility. So I would now entertain a motion to enter committee of the whole. Thank you. Thank you, Council Bennett. Motion is in order. We will now have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
excuse me, yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are now in committee of the whole. Let me take a look at the participant list. There is nobody at committee of the whole, so I would entertain a motion to arise.
second,
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. We will now have roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
8 yeas, 1 nay.
thank you. And we will now go right into committee reports and we will recognize Councilor Waterman.
The License Committee does not have any business this evening. We will meet at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Dolan.
thank you. Reporting for Public Works Committee. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $4,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund dig safe call back overtime due to increased calls.
second,
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed 2 days ago.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes,
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $4,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund callback overtime due to increased emergency callbacks.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Counselor DeSimone. Motion is in order.
No, I have no comments.
Are there any additional comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
9 yeas, 0, President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $3,500 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund gasoline due to the increased gas prices.
Second,
Thank you, Counselor DeSimone. Motion is in order. Do we have any comments?
I don't.
Any comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $24,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund overtime due to a shortage of qualified operators.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I don't have any.
Do we have any comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $10,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund lights and power to pay the electric bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Angelo. Our motion is in order. Any comments?
I don't have any.
Okay. Any from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $1,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund telephone to pay the phone bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Angelo. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I don't.
Do we have any comments, questions, concerns from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote is required with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $6,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund heating to pay the heating bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Bennett. Motion is in order. Do we have any comments? Do we have any additional comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $35,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund workers' compensation insurance.
second,
Thank you, Counselor Angelo. Motion is in order.
I don't have any comments.
Any comments, questions, concerns from the rest of the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $18,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to fund 3231, a Noxic mixer to repair 2 mixers with dinner denatrification system.
second,
Thank you, Counselor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any questions or comments
I have none.
from the council? Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Ms. Reynolds,
yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
yes,
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to transfer $1,500 from account recreational seasonal to account recreation lights and power to pay the electric bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Angelo. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I don't have any.
Any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion that $571,169 of authorized unissued debt from the June 3rd, 2003 authorization of $30,260,000 be rescinded as the wastewater treatment plant project is completed and no further debt should be issued from this authorization.
second,
Thank you, Counselor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments? Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Ms. Reynolds,
yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
yes,
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $1,000 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account animal control lights and power to pay the electric bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2022.
second,
Thank you, Counselor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments? Do we have any questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
That's all the business I have for Public Works Committee and would like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Counselor Dolan. Counselor Conti.
thank you, Mr. President. I'm reporting for Finance Committee. I think I have 7 motions for the council this evening, beginning with one from the docket of June 7, 2022. I move to approve the expenditure limits for the following revolving funds outlined under Chapter 20 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro for fiscal year 2023, which I read in the entirety of my committee.
Thank
second,
you. Thank you, Counselor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments, Counselor Conti?
No, I think these are healthy amounts and they certainly help out on the budget. And that completes my comments.
Thank you, Council Conti. This will, any other additional comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of June 7, 2022, I move to transfer $724,193.32 from the Water Enterprise Fund to the General Government Fund to fund the indirect costs for fiscal year 2023. The dollar amount represented is from fiscal year 2023 budget book. Please note that this figure excludes OPEB contribution for all debt expenses.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments, Councilor?
This has been discussed both in committee and during the budget. The process is not precise, and the studies, there's a guidelines from the state on how this has to be done. And the guidelines indicate that this is good for, 3 to 5 years. We're approaching the 3-year mark next year. There's nothing in the budget to redo it next year. It's currently at 13% and change, which is a lot less than it has been in the past. So I would urge my fellow councilors to approve this measure, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you for that explanation. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of June 7, 2022, I move to transfer $654,875.81 from the Water Enterprise Fund to the General Government Fund to provide funding for the indirect cost for fiscal year 2023 budget. The dollar amount represented from the fiscal year 23 budget book. This required transfer also includes the OPEB contribution and the expenses associated with the debt.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Councilor Conti, any questions, comments, concerns?
The last motion was for wastewater. This one is for the water department, and I would encourage my councilors to support the measure, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. Any questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of June 7, 2022, I move to transfer $3,500 from the citywide reserve fund compensation for the 53rd week to the library salaries to fund the 53rd week payroll week.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments, Councilor Conti?
As much as we try to take care of this every year, it always seems to be one that comes through that we have to put through at the last minute. But this is a contractual and obligatory, and I would urge my councilors to pass the measure, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 17, 2022, I move to transfer $636,000 from the police body cameras to account, I'm sorry, from Fund 3567 police body cameras to the police department continuing appropriation body cameras to properly account for the purchase of body worn cameras in car video systems and necessary associated computer software and technical components for the system operating, including the cloud-based components for 3 years. The original vote from February 15, 2022 had the wrong account.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor DeSimone. Motion is in order. Any comments, Councilor Conti?
I think it's self-explanatory.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 17th, 2022, I move to appropriate $35,000 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government to the Veterans Services Purchase Vehicle for the Veterans Transportation Program.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any questions? Any comments?
The only comment I have is I certainly hope that he is able to fulfill this out for the money that's available, given what's happening in the automotive industry. Prices are rising quickly, used car vehicles as well as new. And I do hope that this covers his expense, and I would encourage my councils to support the measure. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes,
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of February 15th, 2022, I move to appropriate $125,000 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government to fund 3568 feasibility new senior center.
second,
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments, Councilor Conti?
Yes, I'm relieved to finally get this in front of the council. It's been a lot of work. Accumulating in a request for proposals that has a proper scope of work, and I believe it's going to generate some good results. I would urge my councils to support this measure, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes,
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
I'm glad to say that that motion passes. Councilor Conti.
thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the business that the Finance Committee has to bring before the council this evening. And seeing I'm the only representative of the IT and Infrastructure Committee, do you wish for me to proceed with those motions?
Yep, that will be fine.
Thank you. Reporting for the IT and Infrastructure Committee from the docket of June 7th, 2022. I move to approve the expenditure pertaining to the anticipated receipt of Public Safety Answering Point Support and Incentive Grant, approximately $165,733 for fiscal year 23 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, known as the EOPSS, State 911 Department, and approve any further grant amendments.
second,
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments, Councilor Conti?
This is a annual recurring grant, which is much appreciated for the 911 service. And I would urge my councils to support it. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
yes,
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to appropriate $4,800 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government to the Budget and Administration Professional Services for funding a Munis assessment.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any questions or concerns?
Yes, Munis is the big software program that operates the city government, all of finances in the city government. And it's being upgraded, and we need an outside consultant to give us a little bit of support. And I would urge my councilors to pass this measure. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Council Conti. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. D. Simone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business the IT and Infrastructure Committee has to bring before the council. I wish to call for a meeting at the next appropriate time for both the Finance Committee meeting and for the IT and Infrastructure Committee.
Hey, Council Conti, because you haven't had enough camera time tonight, do you want to call a meeting for zoning and land use?
Zoning and land use. Let's see what we got here.
I don't believe they have any business coming out tonight. We just need to call for a meeting.
Oh, good. Reporting for zoning and land use. We have no business to bring before the council this evening. However, we wish to call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for pinch hitting tonight. I appreciate it. We will now go back to Councilor Bennett.
reporting for Transportation and Traffic Committee this evening. We have no business for the council. Request meeting at the next appropriate time.
Very good. Thank you very much. We will now go to city property and claims with Council Reynolds.
Reporting for City Property and Claims Committee. From the docket of May 17th, 2022, I move to declare the following treasurer's office chairs as surplus and available for disposition. 2 office chairs spare. They're still in working condition with a value of $80.
Second,
Thank you, Council Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I have none.
Okay, any additional comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
Ms. D. Simone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 17th, 2022, I move to declare the following council on agent office equipment and furniture surplus and available for disposition. And I read all of these in. They happen to include printers, computers, keyboards, monitors, and furniture as such.
You will waive the reading. Is there a second?
second,
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Councilor Reynolds, any comments?
I have none.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
yes,
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. D. Simone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 17th, 2022, I move to declare the following treasurer's office chairs oh no, excuse me. I think I just already
Skip the first
did
one.
that.
The first one.
That's it, I believe.
Um,
That's all.
Is the printer for the planning department from the docket of June 7th?
The first one.
The first one, I didn't get that one. Hang on.
Okay.
Not on the, 1 second.
No worries.
I'm going to read it off of my from last night. Okay. All right. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to declare the following planning department equipment as surplus and available for disposition. The HP Color Laser Jet Pro M452DW, and it's in very poor condition.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Angelo. Motion is in order. Any comments, Councilor Reynolds?
I have none.
Okay, any additional comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
And the city property and claims has no further business, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Council Reynolds. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. Reporting for Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee. We have 5 items tonight. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to transfer $5,166.72 from account Personnel HMO Blue to account Personnel bills from previous years to pay an FY21 bill that was not charged to the Personnel Department due to a clerical error.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Do we have any comments?
Now we discuss this in committee.
Okay, any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to approve the reappointment for the position and for the term indicated Rachel Legend, Council of Substance Abuse, February 2023.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, that's all.
Okay.
That's all.
Any questions, comments, concerns from the rest of the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to appointment of Walter Vivas, 7 Franklin Street, Attleboro, to fill an expired term of the Council of Human Rights, term to expire February 2025.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any questions or comments?
We had Walter in on Tuesday. He will be great, and looking forward to having him on the Council on Human Rights.
Terrific. Thank you, Councilor Angelo. Do we have any other additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to transfer $500 from account citywide reserve for labor negotiations to account, excuse me, building inspection sick pay incentive to pay 1 employee in the Laborers Association eligible for sick pay incentive with the most recent contract.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Councilor Angelo, any comments?
We talked in committee, and this is contractual.
Okay, any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Excuse me. Yes.
Bless you.
That was a
Thank
sneeze.
bless you, Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to confirm the appointment of Kevin Duquette, 7 Green Street, Attleboro, as the sealer of weights and measures for a term of 3 years.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We had Kevin in on Tuesday, and this will be a very good appointment for the next 3 years.
Very good. Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business for Personnel, Veterans, Human Services, and I call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. And before we recognize Councilor DeSimone, I need to take a little mea culpa. When Councilor DeSimone was talking about the ordinance to change the mayoral vacancy, she correctly and astutely thought there was a public hearing, which thanks to Virginia and Kathleen's diligence was actually on April 5th. So humbly accept my apology, Councilor DeSimone.
No worries. Thank you, President Delicio. Reporting for ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. I have 3 pieces of business for this evening. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to transfer $50 from account election salaries and wages to account elections office supplies for an office chair.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, thank you.
Any questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds. Ms. Reynolds,
She's muted.
Ms. Reynolds. Okay, we'll just, Miss Bennett.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
8 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to approve the expenditure of the National Endowment for the Arts Award to the city for the Big Read program of approximately $19,000 and approve expenditure of such funds and any further grant amendments received by the library.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion is in order. Any comments?
If I may, just looking forward to what I'm sure will be another wonderful Big Read event put on by the public library.
Absolutely. They do such a great job. Councilor Conti.
This is one of my favorite Attleboro events. Due to this National Endowment of the Arts Award, I've read books that I never would have picked off the shelf to read on my own. The choice last year about the Essex was stunning. I mean, it just, I was enthralled with Pacific Islands for at least 3 months and all over Google and roaming the earth and trying to figure out how do these guys pull that off. Truly a great program, and I'm thrilled that it's back, and that concludes my comments.
Excellent. Thank you for those comments. I think we can all agree to that. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from anyone? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
I just have to ask, I had to answer, someone was banging at my door and I wasn't here during the reading of this. Can I vote? Can I vote on it? I was away from the computer.
Could you hear it? Oops.
No, I had muted and closed myself off.
You have to know what you're voting on.
Yeah,
I-
we'll abstain
I
to be
think
on
I
the safe
should-
side.
I mean, I know what we're voting on because I know what it is, but I
Yeah.
wasn't for the reading.
Okay,
Okay,
I don't think it's in danger of failing, so I think it's best
Yeah, I
to
think
have
it's
you
okay.
abstain.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
8 yeas, 1 abstention.
thank you. Motion passes.
Oh, and finally, from the docket of May 3rd, 2022, I move to call for a public hearing on June 21st, 2022 for a proposed amendment to section 2-8.2 powers and duties regarding the Municipal Building Commission.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Angelo. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, any additional question, Councilor Conti?
So I'm going to ask Councilor DeSimone if she just give us a little background on how this measure came into being for anyone watching, so that they would know whether or not they want to come to the public hearing.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Council Conti. It came into being for a couple of reasons. Number one is pertains to pending business regarding certain city buildings and their potential futures. And secondly, I was listening to WARA radio one morning and I heard Jack Jacoby being interviewed And he mentioned about planning for reuse of of municipal buildings. And it got to me to thinking that, yeah, we should be doing that. We should be planning ahead and looking forward to what we can do possibly with some of the buildings that we have. So I put some language together and reached out to several people. And thus you have before you what I hope will be a step forward for the city to have a more long-term planning for the use of the buildings and properties that we own.
Thank you for that, Councilor Reynolds.
I just want to thank Councilor DeSimone for this. I'm fully on board with her, and I think it's overdue.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Oh, and that concludes the business of this committee for the evening. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DeSimone. We'll now recognize Councilor Blair.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Safety and Emergency Management from the docket of June 7th, 2022. I move to transfer $2,900 from account 1210100-511000 police salary and wages to account 1210100-573010 police dues for funds to the police department to obtain Massachusetts police accreditation. Additionally, transfer 30,000 from account 1210100-511000 police salary and wages to account 1210100-530101 police professional services.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Councilor Blair, any comments?
No, we discussed it, that this was brought before the committee last week.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to transfer $10,400 from account 1210100-511000 police salary and wages to account 1210100-530101 police professional services for funds to purchase cameras to install at 4 locations where illegal dumping has become a problem.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Angelo. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, just it, I know Ms. Bennett asked last week where they were, and that would be anti-productive as far as the police department is concerned, because if you let people know, they're gonna move to somewhere else when we haven't cured a problem. This way here, the determinant is how much it's gonna cost them for illegally dumping. Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Blair. Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Conti? You're muted.
Thank you,
Oh, there you
Mr.
go.
President. During the budget session on last night, Cheryl Perry, the Waste Management Director, stated that the cameras are effective. The ones that we have installed already are working very well, and that she's looking forward to these additional cameras, and that concludes my comments.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, I would just like to add to Councilor Conti's point that in addition, for those that didn't tune in, we also talked about how the fine for dumping is less than the fee for the pickup. So I'd be looking for something to be coming down to address that. It's something I'm working on. If anyone wants to sign on to it, please let me know. Councilor DeSimone.
President Delicio, I'm on it. I'm with you. I reached out to Cheryl today. I'm researching the fees in neighboring municipalities, just so we get we hit the sweet spot without. So yes, I'm on it with you as well.
Very good. I appreciate it. Look forward to working with you. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
yes,
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of June 7th, 2022, I move to transfer 27,500 from account 1210100-511000 police salary and wages to account 1210100-558310 police uniform due to a modification in the police union contract.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Councilor Blair, any comments?
No, this is contractual.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
yes,
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
yes,
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Delicio,
Yes,
9 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
I have no other business this evening, Mr. President, but I'd like to call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Blair. And let's just wrap up the way we started. Councilor Conti for the senior tax abatement.
The reporting for the senior tax abatement, we have no business to bring before the council this evening, but we look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Before we adjourn, I just want to remind people we do not have a meeting next Tuesday. It is the 5th Tuesday. You guys have all worked really hard to the last several weeks and months, so enjoy the night off from council. We will be in person on June 7th. We will be in person on June 7th. Council Conti.
Yes, I would like to remind councilors that we do have budget meetings on next Wednesday and next Thursday, the 1st and 2nd of June. On Wednesday, the 1st of June, we have water, wastewater, education, planning, elections, and council on aging. And on June 2nd, Thursday, we have the library, treasurer, recreation, forestry park, animal control, collector, assessor, fire, and protective inspection services. All are invited. They're exciting, exciting meetings. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor, and thank you for your hard work on the budget this year. I know it's a little challenging times to be doing a budget, so thank you. The Memorial Day Parade will be coming back this upcoming Monday on Memorial Day. I believe we'll be meeting right outside Willett between 9:15 and 9:30. Before we call for adjournment, we talked about a lot of important things tonight. But there is nothing more important than the birth of a new grandbaby. So Councilor Angelo, congratulations on the addition of your family. Wishing good health to your son, his wife, and your new granddaughter.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Congrats, Mike.
Thank you all.
And that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. And we will now have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
and President Delicio.
Yes, and we are
No.
adjourned at sorry,
That's okay, 9 yeas, 0 nays.
and we are now adjourned at 6:48. Have a great night and enjoy the long weekend. Take care, everyone.